in 632 and 33, Jung's talking about the real reason for the Incarnation as a historical event. Now he's talking about Christ here, and what I hope to skip forward to is his description of the Lord's Prayer here, which is pretty awesome. Actually, it's in Edinger, but it's very interesting. But so the real reason for the Incarnation is that God is not treating man fairly, and so the moral thing comes up in Job, and it's sort of helpful to understand this later part that I was working on this evening. But basically, what we're talking about is myths emerging, which we were talking about last week, Bill, where myths come up, and they may not be actual historical events, but by telling this story over and over, it's expressing something that is in the human psyche. If it's nowhere else, it's there, and so it gets refined by the storytellers over time, and so then Jung goes back and looks at the Bible, and he says, "Wait a minute, I don't like this answer to Job because." There's some psychological issues here, Yahweh needs a little bit of psychotherapy. I mean, basically, that's what he's saying, right? And so in 634, he says, well, man, Yahweh never consults his omniscience. If he's omniscient, he would know what Job's reaction would be. Why doesn't he just consult his omniscience? Why does he cut Satan loose to be nasty, right? And in the book, he never seems to know what Satan will do. Okay, so not only is he not omniscient about the overall situation, but he's also not omniscient about one of his sons, namely Satan, and what Satan's going to do. If he's omniscient, why doesn't he know? Okay, so the other issue that comes up in this paragraph 634 is the creation kind of caused Yahweh to be flashbanged by his own brilliance. Okay, he was infinitely delighted with everything that he could do, right? So he could do this, and I can create Behemoth, and I can create Leviathan, and I can cause locusts to come down on your farm, whatever it is. Aren't I cool? It was a bit inflated, right? And so in 635, Jung's talking about how proud and joyful he is about creating. He's sort of intoxicated with himself. And I don't know, Bill, as an artist, when you get going on your artistic work, do you get kind of intoxicated into the work?
Never in art. In design, yes, but never in art.
In design.
Art, I never know what's going to happen. Design was where I have a problem that I go, this is a great solution. But with art, I'm going, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Interesting. I have to think about that for a minute. So in art, you're just allowing the power to flow through you.
You just keep trying to get out of the way.
Right. Okay. So this is the transpersonal self operating through you.
Yeah.
But in design, what?
You have a problem and you want to solve it.
Yahweh is intoxicated by his own creativity.
Well, so that's the ego. The ego is intoxicated by its own. That's why it finds itself so fascinating. It gets inflated.
Right, and it gets inflated because it finds itself so fascinating, right?
Yeah, it looks at his phallus and goes, wow.
Plays with its own name while it's entertained.
Yeah. Whatever.
Okay, but here's an interesting point, which I think I read this before, but I made a special note on it. Bill will like. Okay, so here's a quote from the Zarathustra lectures, and it is, "The creative forces have you on a string, and you dance to their whistling, to their melody. But inasmuch as you say these creative forces are in Nietzsche, or are in me, or anywhere else, you cause an inflation, because man does not possess creative powers, he is possessed by them. The creative forces take it out of them." Nietzsche felt cheated. Okay, I remember reading that before, but then this quote. "But if you know you are creative and enjoy being creative, you will be crucified afterwards, because anybody identified with God will be dismembered." Okay, so Bill, do you feel dismembered?
No, I made art. I did what I did it from my soul, and I won international competitions. So if that's crucifixion, it is.
And, that doesn't sound like crucifixion to me. Did you suffer from it? Did you suffer from it?
Only from envy. There were people that were nasty to me for winning. Even had one of the judges come up. "It wasn't for me. You wouldn't have
Nice. Nice way to undercut your win, right?
Well, I don't remember being crucified, except maybe internally, right? Because I did these black and white images, which were extremely explicit, let's say. Okay, I did a full frontal nude of myself in black and white, and sort of like as a rubber stamp, only it was in a 3x5 canvas, right? Right. And I when I did that show, I didn't know whether I would have fundamentalists show up at it, because I had advertised it, and I had advertised what was going to be in it, sort of, and so I didn't know whether I was going to have fundamentalists show up and picket it or anything. And
like Westboro Baptist Church.
well, yeah, I mean, because among other things, there were.
You know you've made it then.
Let's put it this way. Among other things in this show were imprints of women's private parts. Okay. where I had applied paint to women's private parts, and then they applied the paint to the canvas.
Their painted person to the canvas.
Right.
Okay.
And so they were quite explicit, right? And they are quite explicit. They're in storage. I still haven't figured out what they mean, right? But
We didn't see that art when we came over for your birthday.
That's like the ultimate Rorschach.
well, if you look in the Dropbox carefully enough, you can find one or two. Okay, but I didn't know whether I would be crucified, and I had invited all the Jungian analysts in Washington, and it happened that weekend Jean Shinoda Bolen, who wrote Women, Goddesses in Every Woman, was there for a weekend seminar, and so they brought her to this event, right? And so here's Jean Shinoda Bolen at this event, and I'm saying, oh my God, I wonder what all these analysts are going to think. They all loved it. You know, they loved it, but it was just interesting, and the mood in the room was euphoria. Okay, and the only time I connected that up is with Trump, because I think that it was like Trump. It was breaking stereotypes and breaking expectations, and so people say, "Oh yeah, I can be my natural self, I'm free in this room to be my natural self," and there was total euphoria. And I did buy a lot of wine for that event, so there was.
That's very free.
Well, there was free wine at the event, and so people were drinking wine. But I mean, there was literally euphoria in that room, and I'm still trying to grok it myself. And I wasn't dismembered except to myself, maybe, because I did 3 shows like that. I did one at the Lowe's, I did one at a private home here, which was a gas, and then I did one in Greenwich Village, and everybody loved the art. Nobody bought it. I mean, the first night they bought $2,800 worth, so that was interesting. Nobody bought any pussy prints.
You should bring it back out of storage right now. There's a thing.
There might be a thing. Well, the thing that amazed me was that I could persuade 15 women to do this.